Oh, I was watching the Puff Daddy documentary.
Of course.
Dude, dark.
Really?
I watched the one on Max. These are not just like stories. They're sit-down interviews with childhood best friend, personal bodyguard for like 10 years, former employees, former artists that he worked with. It's everybody that was intimately involved with this guy, and everything that they said. I mean, he's a monster. Like when you watch this, you end up going like, oh, there's a real probability that he's not going to see the light of day.
No, it's Tom. I mean, everything you watch before bed is a steady diet of awful and just chaos and murder and destruction. And that one was like, oof, thank God I was on cold medicine. I could like,
yeah, you kind of tapped out of it.
Out.
Diddy turned me down.
So how did the meeting go, and then what did Diddy say? Why did he turn you down?
We get into the office, so we do the performance. Like, we nervous, but we just do the shit. Boom, all right. And so he was just like, cool. He said, yeah, I like this crew. I don't like this light-skinned nigga over here. This little nigga over here. Fuck down. I ain't home. I said, that's just melted in that goddamn office at 12. I said, blood, I mean, fucked up.
And you 12 years old.
Yeah. I was in that elevator probably crying like a mother.
But so, I gotta ask.
Yeah.
Your partner was dark-skinned?
Oh, yeah.
I gotta ask.
Yeah, my brother was thirsty.
All right.
So you have teenage daughters, and
Yes.
I would think that anyone that they're dating would be scared to death to come to the house with Love as the father.
I don't know what you're talking about. My daughter's only 15.
They're not dating?
No, they're not. Not that they better not be dating right now.
They're 15. They've got to have boyfriends or girlfriends or something. That's an age you start like being interested.
I didn't know that.
They're cheerleaders, right?
No, I really thought that they don't start dating till like 17, right? When do they start dating? Oh my God.
Hey, Martin, have you seen that the documentary, the 50 Cent?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
For Diddy?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, man, you working
Everybody
hard.
telling me you got to see it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
Probably don't want to see it.
You probably don't.
Because it's all skewed, man. Like when you put stuff together, you create whatever narratives you want to, and at the end of the day, everybody being programmed. You know, right now the man's serving time.
Right.
You know, he went before the court. The court said this, and everything is God. But God said this is what he got to do. He got to do 5 years in pen. Let him do his 5 years.
If Shawn Combs watches this, what do you think he's going to feel?
Like, wow, this is amazing. I think he's going to say this is the best documentary I've seen in a long time. Because you'll see people saying that. I mean, he might feel a different way about pieces and bits of it, but he knows the truth.
So a lot of people have been talking about whether this turns another bad light onto hip-hop and hip-hop being attacked and like why 50 Cent wants to be the person that adds into this. Let's take a listen to 50 talk about that.
Do you think that hip-hop culture was on trial as much as Shawn Combs was?
Look, if I didn't say anything, you would interpret it as hip-hop is fine with his behaviors. There's no one else being vocal. So you would look at it and just say, that mind your business, or let me not say nothing about nothing, or those things. It would allow the entire culture to register as if they're for that.
This has nothing to do with hip hop, and I hate when they do that. Like when Harvey Weinstein is on trial, nobody says, "Well, is this Hollywood on trial?" And when the Abercrombie and Fitch guy is on trial, nobody says, "Is the clothing industry on trial?" Like, no, this has nothing to do with hip hop. No. This was one man's choices. That's it. This is about Diddy and nothing else.
Because Diddy is so hated by 50 Cent that apparently a decade ago, 50 Cent just started gathering information on Diddy. As much as he could find. And he started working on a documentary series on how bad Diddy is. A documentary. He did interviews. He hates this man so much. A documentary series that he's already potentially sold to Netflix. And the craziest thing about it is that apparently, I don't know if this is true, but this is what I've been hearing. I looked it up from several outlets, and 50 Cent's documentary series about Shawn Combs is titled Diddy Do It?
I didn't want to do the Diddy documentary. Obviously, there's a history there. He did things to me, to my family, that devastated my family. But I didn't want to tell that story. It's ironic that that story is telling itself right now as this story is coming out.
The Diddy documentary dropped, and the reactions from the entertainment world were nothing short of explosive. The second installment of Shawn Combs, The Reckoning, hit Netflix, and suddenly it felt like everyone, celebrities, insiders, fans, had to stop what they were doing and reassess everything they thought they knew about him. Old interviews resurfaced. Messages from years ago leaked. People who had worked with Diddy decades ago suddenly had a lot more to say. Some were outspoken, some stayed silent, and some, those closest to him, chose quiet. An absence that spoke louder than words ever could. This documentary didn't just revisit allegations or show footage. It explored decades of friendships, betrayals, power dynamics, and influence. And the reactions it sparked revealed as much about Diddy's legacy as the documentary itself. Today, we're breaking it all down, from the loudest celebrity responses to the quietest, from insiders who were unshaken to those who say, this could be the final chapter of an era. If we're talking about reactions, we have to start with the man who set the tone, 50 Cent. He didn't just watch the documentary, he helped shape it. He produced it, teased footage, promoted it, and then publicly reacted when it landed on Netflix. And his reaction wasn't casual commentary. It was deliberate, pointed, and unmistakably influential. He made it clear that his involvement wasn't personal. The beefs of the past weren't driving his decisions. This was about culture, accountability, and making sure silence wasn't interpreted as endorsement. He said if he didn't step in, fans might assume the behavior was acceptable. That's a heavy claim, and it set the bar for everyone else watching. But 50 Cent didn't stop there. He said, in no uncertain terms, that even Diddy would likely appreciate the documentary for its structure and clarity. Not because he liked it, but because the truth in it was undeniable. That statement alone amplified the documentary's weight. When someone of 50 Cent's stature stamps an event like this, the rest of the industry listens, and that's exactly what happened. Next, let's talk about Aubrey Day. For years, she danced around stories she couldn't fully reveal. Subtle hints in interviews, podcasts, and social media lives. Fans could sense something was off, but the details were locked away. Then the Netflix documentary hit, and everything changed. The way her relationship with Diddy was framed in the film made everything clear. The messages she received, the uncomfortable conversations she described, and the footage of her being fired from Danny Kane, all compiled in one place. The editing choice was brutal and precise. Aubrey's story didn't just appear, it was constructed to make a statement. Joe Bunn, who recounted the scenes, called the editing insane, noting how the documentary juxtaposed her testimony with Diddy's actions. For Aubrey, the reaction was relief, a sense of finally being heard and validation after years of silence. Fans who had watched her career grow on MTV were stunned. Her voice, finally amplified, reverberated across social media and beyond, and it set a precedent for how other reactions would unfold. Then there's Cassie, whose reaction, or rather her lack of one, speaks volumes. She didn't give interviews, she didn't appear on camera, and she didn't comment publicly. And yet, her presence permeates the documentary. The 2016 hallway footage featuring her is one of the most disturbing sequences in the film, and it's been haunting audiences since it leaked. Celebrities who might not have commented publicly before quietly acknowledged the impact of that moment. Cassie had already taken legal action, settled matters, and shared her side in court documents. For her, silence wasn't weakness, it was closure. She didn't need to explain herself. The footage, the documentary, and the surrounding public reaction said enough. Celebrities close to her posted supportive messages when the clip originally surfaced, and that energy carried through the documentary's release. Cassie's reaction, or strategic non-reaction, was one of the most powerful responses in the entire cultural conversation. Joe Bunn's reaction, on the other hand, was loud, raw, and visceral. He wasn't polite, cautious, or measured. By the end of episode 2, he admitted to feeling genuine anger at Diddy. The documentary's meticulous assembly of timelines, interviews, and behind-the-scenes footage created a narrative that couldn't be ignored or dismissed. For Joe, the punishment Diddy faced historically didn't align with the behavior described in the documentary. Watching it stirred something deeply emotional, something that wasn't confusion or curiosity. It was outrage, His reaction highlights the way the documentary forces audiences, celebrity or otherwise, to confront what's on screen and feel something profound. Joe's response also shows how powerful storytelling can be. It doesn't just inform, it provokes and demands engagement. While high-profile reactions made headlines, industry insiders offered a more subtle but equally revealing perspective. Former assistants, choreographers, producers, label employees, and event staff, people who existed in Diddy's orbit but stayed behind the scenes, shared their thoughts quietly, often online. Their words carried a weight all their own. Comments like, "People knew," or "That era was different, we saw signs," hinted at a culture that wasn't as pristine as it seemed. For years, legal or career constraints kept them from speaking. Now, with the documentary released, many expressed a sense of inevitability, like watching a chapter come full circle. Their reactions weren't dramatic, but they were telling. The controlled image presented to the world rarely reflected the backstage reality. Media critics also weighed in, and their insights further solidified the documentary's cultural impact. Major reviewers didn't frame it as a smear campaign. Instead, they recognized its thoroughness, the intensity of its pacing, and the emotional weight of its testimonies. Critics noted how the documentary acknowledged Diddy's accomplishments while contrasting them with behavior that was deeply troubling. They praised the storytelling for being sharp, unflinching, and methodical. Importantly, reviewers highlighted that the documentary didn't aim to sensationalize, it aimed to document, and that distinction made it hit differently. It wasn't simply an expose, it was a deep dive into decades of relationships, actions, and consequences. The silence of many celebrities was another significant reaction that went largely unnoticed at first. Big names who had stood beside Diddy in his prime suddenly unfollowed him, deleted old photos, avoided interviews, or simply went offline. Silence in Hollywood is rarely accidental, and in the context of such a massive documentary, it became its own form of commentary. Were these celebrities genuinely shocked? Were they reassessing loyalties? Or were they strategically waiting for the right moment to respond? Whatever the reason, their quiet reactions added layers of intrigue to the story and forced fans and journalists alike to consider what was really happening behind the glitz. Not every celebrity reacted with caution or silence. Some expressed confusion or support, saying the documentary felt one-sided or didn't align with their personal experiences with Diddy. Others wanted more of his perspective or questioned the authenticity of certain claims. This division highlighted an important truth. The documentary didn't create a unanimous narrative. It split opinion. In one corner were those convinced by the evidence, in another were those defending their personal experiences, and in the middle existed a complicated gray area. Diddy's place in music and culture is multifaceted. He's a mogul, a creative, a businessman, and a cultural icon. So naturally, the responses to this documentary were just as layered. Fans played an equally critical role in shaping the story's impact. Reactions spanned shock, anger, nostalgia, sadness, and disappointment. For people who grew up with the golden era of Bad Boy, watching the documentary felt like their childhood being dissected. Others claimed they had anticipated some truths would surface eventually. Some fans couldn't finish the documentary because it was too emotionally heavy. Their responses amplified the pressure on celebrities and forced public conversations. Fans not only consume culture, they actively shape it, influencing who speaks, who remains silent, and how the narrative unfolds. Their reactions gave added weight to the celebrity responses, highlighting the interplay between public perception and personal reflection. The aftermath also included what's known as the cleanup reaction. Industry players quietly began distancing themselves, removing credits, re-editing bios, changing partnerships, pausing deals, and reframing old relationships. Hollywood PR teams went into rapid response mode. The documentary didn't just affect public perception, it disrupted professional networks, prompting recalibrations behind the scenes. These subtle actions underscored the reach of the film, showing that its influence extended far beyond social media chatter and celebrity commentary. And then there's Diddy himself. His response was measured, defensive, and expected. He called the documentary a hit piece, claiming Netflix used unauthorized footage and presented an incomplete story. Legal statements were issued, his team pushed back hard, and his rebuttal became part of the story itself. This reaction didn't end the conversation, it fueled it. It reminded everyone that the narrative was ongoing and that his perspective, though contested, still mattered in the broader cultural dialogue. Diddy's defensive stance demonstrated the stakes involved. This wasn't just a documentary, it was a reckoning, and he wasn't about to cede the narrative entirely. The combination of outspoken celebrities, subtle insider comments, fan reactions, and Diddy's defensive posture created a complex cultural moment. The documentary didn't just reveal alleged behaviors, it provoked a conversation about power, influence, loyalty, and accountability. Some reactions were emotional, some cautious, some quiet, but together they mapped a cultural landscape where Diddy's legacy is being actively reassessed. There's a tension between admiration for his accomplishments and recognition of troubling behavior, and that tension is what makes the story compelling. In the end, the Diddy documentary is more than a series of allegations or a collection of footage. It's a moment that reflects decades of relationships, decisions, and influence. The reactions, from the loud and bold to the silent and strategic, reveal as much about the culture surrounding him as they do about Diddy himself. Fans, insiders, critics, and celebrities all contributed to a multifaceted response that is still unfolding. This story doesn't have a simple conclusion, and that's what makes it resonate. It's a reminder that in the world of fame and power, every action, every silence, and every reaction carries weight. For those following the fallout, this documentary isn't just a story to watch, it's a story to think about. It challenges assumptions, highlights complexity, and reminds us that legacies are never simple. Whether you're reacting with shock, anger, confusion, or admiration, the cultural ripples are undeniable. The Reckoning isn't just a documentary, it's a moment that has changed the way the world views one of music's biggest icons. And the reactions, the loud, the quiet, the emotional, and the calculated, tell a story that is as important as the footage itself. This is a cultural event, a collective examination, and an ongoing conversation about fame, power, and accountability in the modern age.